Since I recorded the rest of this video, a new meta has dropped. Fizz isn't the only mobility anymore, there's now a only mask, but I guarantee there's still a lot you can learn from this video. Without further ado, let's go.
Today we're going to be pod reviewing TruleX and Chico in the first week of the EU finals. They got 7th, which, doesn't seem that spectacular, but then they got 5 elims the whole tournament. Just compare it to the other people around them and you realise they are a crazy anomaly. So how do you play so placement in a finals lobby and get this match history? 5 endgames, 5 kills. It's quite spectacular. Now this video will definitely be a longer one because there is so much to unpack, so much to learn. And I'll try and be as thorough as I can because there's so much you can learn, so many new ways to think about Fortnite when you watch how they play. And these guys are landing at this XR base just north of Outpost, and it is a pretty good spot. If I open up the loot, you can see it's got 7 chests, 2 OXR chests, absolutely cap metal, and you get enough barrels and you get the flag as well, which is really helpful because it drops like 4 or 5 meds depending on how lucky you get. And we can see that their game plan does end up being that. I'm going to switch to TruleX's POV because I like how he loots it. So he's obviously capturing the flag, and now immediately his priority is to get these meds and drop them on this tower, so Chicho can use them later to trade. I know trading's boring, but it really feeds into their game plan, because as much as it's boring to watch, you have to respect it when it's played right, and it's all calculated. But you notice that there were 2 little bits that TruleX could have looted. He could have looted this bit, and he can also loot this bit. I mean, obviously, well actually, this is probably more what he gets, but he probably just went here because it's closer to where he was initially. But also, you have to realise that I think his Pix and Demus are up here, and there's a greater risk of him being here, because obviously he can get jumped on like that. So that's why he wants to get this out of the way, and then loot the safer stuff later, because no one's ever going to jump in here, so he can deal with that later. Right now he wants to get the high risk stuff out of the way, and that's the same with many drop spots that are next to another drop spot. So maybe you've got this split and this gas station. I've seen Cammy land at this gas station and then loot into Span, because no one really is going to go into Shining Span, but this gas station a lot of people do land up. You can see Chicho, he's got the God loadout, well, God setup even. Now, this isn't anywhere near the levels of trading we had in trios. Like, we did see they only have 7 chests and a flag, essentially. But at the same time, he's very ready to just get some early damage, so he can make their mid-game easier. Because if you can just get through those first, maybe 2 surge thresholds, then that means you can pretty much pick your spot for the 5th zone, and then get surge from there. Here, Sato and Momsy don't trade. I mean, they do in the other games, you'll see. But here he just knows that based on the fight that happened here, I know I was probably yapping all over it, but based on the fight that happened here, they're going to go back, and eventually he spotted them here, and now they know they can milk them. Easy surge. And they could go to zone, but why do you need to go find some harder surge when you know there's easy surge just by staying here? And now I really like how they get in here. They know there's, at the minimum, this mushroom base, and any decent team is going to try and max out the surge they can get here. And you can see that Anas is already in this bush. He's already trying to milk extra surge out of the teams that come from zone. So this is pretty much the worst case scenario for TruleX and Chicho. But TruleX knows that if he just doesn't take damage and just keeps moving, he'll be fine. The moment you start to take damage, maybe get cracked, is the moment where Ref Charge can come in, take another angle, and your game is really finished at that point. So what does that mean? It means you've got to just over-invest mats, and just don't even try and shoot back. Every time you shoot back, it's a risk. And to be honest, there's normally more they can gain out of the trades than you can. And on top of that, it's very hard to peek upwards like this and have an advantage in the peak. So you can just see the Fragger's POV Chicho. He gets some damage because he had a nice angle. But on the whole, he's really just trying to just build. Stick with TruleX. And then just keep moving. Because eventually, these guys have just realised, oh damn, they've got in front of us. Because they just kept going. Like, they obviously want to get more surge on this, but they didn't even know how to react because they just kept moving, they just kept going. Like, the average player would stop a lot, trying to get damage, try and trade, think, okay, we need surge here. But their logic is, we don't need to get Surge on these guys. There's no point. We'll just get out-traded. We'll get it somewhere else. Now, their meds are definitely not great, I'll be honest. And they do get worse, by the way. This is, you know, really simple. You don't want to shoot here, because then these guys are going to hold you, and pretty much your game's done. You can choose a better time to get Surge on them, but I don't even know. I don't think they even shoot on them. And now they just start running. And I'm going to spare you some time. I want to open up the match report here. Shout out to Syrian, I actually love them. They might have my kids, I'll be honest. And their whole plan is just, they know there's so much LOS here, like that, they just use it. Get in, and they go. And I really love their positioning on the end here, because they're not the only team in this lobby that has all of this LOS, but they've intentionally positioned just at the end of it, because they know everyone else is going to use the LOS. And as soon as they leave the line of sight, then they've exposed. So then TruleX and Chico can take advantage of that. Because instead, let's say you box here, everyone's just going to use the line of sight to get past. Or if you box here, then someone else is going to stop them. So you want to be on this choke point where everyone's going to be, and then you can max Surge on them. And eventually they have all of this space because of their Surge base, they controlled all of the space. And now let's go back into game to watch this. So they go instantly because they made their own path with their own little dead zone. And it's as simple as just running to zone. I mean, their mats are better because they had time to refarm. And they also didn't use much metal in that early game. I want you to watch carefully how TruleX boxes up in a way that you might not think he's going to get surged. You might think, this is an awful position, why would you ever just box up here and that's it? You're not going to get surge, you're not going to get a good rotate. You can maybe use this as a choke point, because other people will use this, and they do end up doing that. But in terms of your next rotate, how are you ever going to do that? Because you're on low ground, you have no visibility. And the trick to that we'll get to later. But this is very intentional in the fact he's not tried to build out, he's not tried to scout. I mean, he has tried to scout, but he's not, you know, committed anything to it. He's pretty much just essentially playing a bush. He's playing bush to bush in a finals, which seems dumb, but it does work. Then abusing that choke point, they get some surge off of it. And now when the zone does pull max, I mean ideally they would go straight away. But the idea is that no one actually really knows they're there. Or the main people that would hold them wouldn't know they were there. So imagine if you're teeny here, you don't even know that there's anyone here. So then you're not ready to tag them. Obviously, you know, they're going to prioritize all of these people, but they're going to try and tag as many people as possible. I mean, they also didn't even know that all of these people would end up coming here. And they know there'd be a bunch of people, but the fact they didn't expose themselves to the surge lobbies, or the surge towers and stuff, you know, that would have made their next rotate easier. And these rotates, I'll be honest, they are rough from here. If anyone watched the EU finals, they were not nice to pretty much anyone. Box up in zone, take a high layer to get surge, it's, you know, simple enough. Chico probably putting in damage because he's always been like that. Again, going instantly, line of sight. There is really not much to look at here. They do try and contest height, which was a strategy they had in some of the other games. And that probably is because they have no medkits. Anyone that knows anything about these guys, they lack their medkits, and we'll see that later. Because that is one of their two strategies to end games. You've got height, or you've got medkits. And if you notice, they have neither. So this game turns bad quite quickly. It's quite funny to see how they die. I'll just let it play. I mean, I don't, you know, if you're boxing up here, you're clearly not trying to get a refresh, which maybe was a mistake from them, but it's fine, because in the end you've got the Demon Duo Clutch, where you have 0 builds, 100 health combined, and they just spend the rest of this game just running around. And that was my Discord note, by the way. I know someone just checked their Discord, I apologise. And he dies, and Chicho dies soon after. And you can see how their game plan kind of falls apart if every single zone is a max. But they do stay ahead of Surge. They got their early Surge, and that allows them to get a good position in the later zone. They got a centre of 4th position, if I go back to this. You know, they very intentionally got centre of 4th, and then they pulled 5th, and then they just stayed ahead on every rotate. I mean, they did burn a lot of mats, and obviously they burnt a lot of meds in the early game over here. But to still get a 10th out of that is honestly quite impressive. This next game I'm about to show is going to seem interesting on why I'm showing it, but it will make sense, I promise. So if you notice, it's a top right to bottom left bus, and anyone who's seen my recent tweet will know what I'm alluding to here. And then TruleX gets beamed out the air by Pix and Demus landing on the courts, because they can land first and they're caught gliding in the air. Now, they get keyed by Sato, they go into the drop, they get keyed by Sato. I'm not going to show that, but I promise there's going to be a good reason for showing you that. It'll add up, and it just makes their placement even more impressive. I want to show the start of Game 3 in the 2D replay, because we kind of know their game plan at this point. They do end up trading though. You can see that here. They get some damage. And their game plan again is simple. They try and conserve all their meds, and they just play centre of 4th. There's no more surge to get, now they're centre of 4th. It's very intentional what they're doing, and they pull a bunch of zones. And let's jump into the replays at this point. So we join them at the 6th zone. They have pulled every zone, so they literally have everything you need. They've got 3 meds, the TruleX Classic. They pick their path, they go pretty much instantly. Maybe they could have gone earlier, but these guys know what they're doing clearly. And I'll be honest, the next zone does pull far, but the rotates are simple. They're ahead of zone, they control this little pocket of space. Like, I guarantee that Chicho's instruction is to just shoot anything that comes near them, because at the end of the day they want to have the next rotate free from themselves. Yeah, making lens stuck back there. And then the next zone pulls max, and they just go insta. It's really, you know, that's just how you play a no mobility matter. Your timing is everything, and it's probably just best to do an early timing. Simple as that. And now they are the first team here, so they go for height. I mean, they even have medkits at this point, but they're the dolls of the lobby. They want to get height. I'll focus the other height. They get griefed, which is helpful. And I want to say this isn't a perfectly played height game, but it's very much a placement height game. They did this kind of thing in Chapter 3 as well, where the same way they don't really know what to do in endgames. I mean, their recent solution to that was medkits, but before they just used to just psycho height and then just sit here. You know, they're not dropping down like a pixie, trying to max out kills. Like, they end up just getting a third of this game, which, you know, might seem bad from this position. I guess they only have 100 builds now. But, like, it does work. It is very playable. Okay, I know I have skipped a bit there. Let me go back. There's some stuff I want to mention. So notice how their top really isn't that big right now. They're not in zone, so I guess, you know, you don't need all that space. But notice that the time that they fizz is very intentional, because now zone is opening up. And what that means is that these people that are boxed up, they're going to start thinking, huh, okay, can we take height? Just because, you know, no one thinks about that on the middle of your rotate. But when you're in zone, you have time, there's nothing else to do. That's when people think about height. So that's when it's important to find a way to block these guys out. Now in this zone, there are so many people that can take height. So the only way you can kind of suppress all of them is if you get there instantly and build up. So if I see TruleX's POV, he jumps all the way to front side, because it's not worth tarping all that. And he builds up, reconnects from zone, and now anyone that wanted to look up for height was like, no, they're established, it's fine, we can't take that. And now from here, there are only 3 ways they can lose height, which is awareness, being chopped out, and losing it from front side. So if someone essentially goes up to front side and just builds up, chop is obvious, and awareness is just getting beamed or getting lurked on. And now front side, they already tackled that by going front side when the zone hit the white line. So that's solved. Chop is just simply connecting. That's not really something you intentionally choose, you just know it. You know, anyone who's played high ever just kind of knows to not get dropped. And awareness, let's see how they solve that. I'll be honest, it's going to be quite boring. I'll stick to TruleX's POV, I think it was. And notice how he's really not shooting his gun. I mean, I know he has no ammo, but he very easily could just be holding left click on random boxes. He's just analysing the threats, how he can get those kills. He's staring at those boxes. Uses it as an opportunity to connect. So he's solving multiple things in one. He's gained awareness, and then used that to not be dropped. Like he's just looking down, analysing the threats. And I'm not saying you play like this even if you have ammo. If you have ammo, you obviously shoot second height. But you shoot second height so they don't look up. If you can just spot when people look up, that essentially does the same thing. It's not as good, but it does the same purpose, where they don't have an opportunity to look up. Like, let's say maybe Cringe builds a ramp out here. These guys will spot that, and then they can use their revolvers to shoot out the ramp, or they can like block it off with a cone. And they know they can do that because they have awareness. And now I'll be honest, the rest of this game is just so scuffed. It's funny how these guys have no intention of winning from height, but it does actually, you know, work in terms of getting placement. Like what, they've got 13 builds, and then they just jump around like it's a zone horse. I'm gonna turn off my Discord after this. I can tell it's gonna be big, obnoxious. Watch Chico POV, because he is the guy that gets the frags. I will show the kid stats too, they are very funny. Or the Assyrian stats even. I was challenging their height because that. And they don't even try and get, they don't even try and hold the height. Which might seem dumb, but when you're going for a top 5 every game with 0 kills, it works, it works. And I'll just skip it, he just dies. As is classic, these guys play their whites, but then he eventually does die. And this game is very interesting, very special. So, the bus is top right to bottom left, and if you don't remember, that was in game 2, and they got beamed out the air. So their solution to that is to hit a marker really far away, so that they can't beam them at the tennis courts. So they're probably going to dive for something like this. That's their plan. However, it's not really that simple. Let's see. You go to Gladden, and Pix and Demus have taken their spot because they knew they'd do this. You know, it's a set lobby. Everyone plays the same. Everyone's predictable in a certain way. So at this point, they're kind of cooked. What do? You can see what they have. They have, at a minimum, this lake. Maybe this black market. Kinda. What's empty? What's uncontested around the map? Because, you know, it's a set lobby. It's kind of always the same. So if I go a bit more center map, because they do end up going center map, what do they have? Maybe they have this station here, that's uncon, this is probably part of a split. Maybe they have this, and obviously it's not a lot, but you have to work with something. So if I go to the match report, you can see that they are in the slums. By the way, they do get 7th this game. So they end up going here, and I don't know if it will load, but Chico has no gun here. No, TruleX has too. Chico literally has no gun. So they don't shoot Akira, they just let him do his thing. And their plan is to just literally go and find whatever spare stuff they can. So I imagine their plan was to go to the station, but they saw Ghost and Yanis were already there. So then the next stop is to go to this, And obviously, it's kind of lucky what, you know, they can get. Because maybe Refscod tries to take that to trade with or something. But notice along the way, they're still farming mats. Like, they're trying to tick off what they can. So for an endgame, you pretty much need Surge, Wood, Brick, I'll put that as 1, Metal, I mean, just Shield-ish, or just meds generally, which probably includes Fizz, and then just Loot. They can get Wood and Brick on the way. As bad as their spot is, whatever they've taken, they can at least tick this off. They can tick off Metal here. Shield and heals happens over time, or Shield and meds even. And Loot, they don't need Loot, they're getting 5 kills a tournament. So now let's see how they solve their Surge. So you can see 3 meds, 6 minis, 4 splashes, so it's pretty good. Like, this is a pretty good loadout, I'm not gonna lie. But now they can see this zone, now they need to think how we get in Surge. Now they know that these guys are going to be on the hills. I know that seems dumb, but when you've played so many set lobbies, you just know that some people are more, they stick to their drop spot more, some people like to move around. Like Venno always likes to keep for a Surge. You can see he's down at Shogun's. This is still when he's playing with Queasy. But, you know, he knows that those guys are going to be staying there. And also there's probably going to be someone in this hill. He uses that to his advantage. But how is he going to get near this hill? By the hint he trades, he ends up trading with them. But he knows what line of sight is. He knows this line of sight is pretty weak, the one that I've drawn. Because once you get past here, milk, 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 and you just die. Like, your game's done. Instead, he knows that he can do all of this, and it might seem longer, but it's worth it. Like, I really do think that these pro players just see all of these line of sights, like angles, as just little roads, and you use the roads to get to where you need to go. Because the amount of meds you can save, like, it just pretty much skips zones. Like, it makes your game so much easier. Now from here, let's hop into game. And they also know there are slurp trucks here. It's only just these two, that's the third one. And now they're just finding people to shoot. Now you could say this is lucky that no one's here. But when you consider that, they didn't even get any early surge. Like, their timing, it kind of makes sense why it's good. I'm not going to say it's great, because it's the third zone, like, it's still quite late. But, you know, the fact that they went instantly means that now they can pretty much choose their position. And maybe this was planned, maybe this wasn't, but this is a great spot to get surge. You know, you've got the barrels, you've got, you know, sight lines on enough people, you know, see pretty much all of that. You've got this open space here. Now, you can make these backup plans for every spot. Like, I'm not saying prepare for your drop spot being stolen in a set lobby finals, but you definitely can, like, know where, like, little hubs of loot are. So let's say your drop spot has really good metal, but it never has any fizz. You know that these 2 drone POIs you can rotate into later, or you can maybe say that you need, like, you just need surge. Maybe you're landing edge map, you don't have surge. You know that this hill is good for surge or something. You need to, like, know where these spots are and pretty much guide your game so you get there. And now they get a bunch of surge. So if I just open this, zone 3, what time stamp is this? So they start with how much surge? Can you see them? Oh, yeah, Captain. How the hell did I have 709? That is, what? Oh, they have 272 at the start. And I presume Chicho's been tagging, because I was watching TruleX's POV. So he's already got 350 tags. And even by the next zone, now they're at, where even are they? 781. And in duos, 1,000 is probably enough. Yeah, it just is. So they're just trading. Because these guys, by the way, these guys on the hill, no one's really rotating in yet. Like, the 4th zone, when the 4th turns to 5th, that's when these guys get tags. So right now, they have nothing better to do than just trade. That's why they're peeking. If you notice that, again, they're at the end of a line of sight. You know, this is very intentional. I promise this is intentional, because they do it in another game later, which you'll see. Obviously, you know, the slurp trucks, that's probably what they played for, but they are very aware that this is the end of a line of sight point. And now what that means is they can create their own dead side, just like last game. And now, again, like last game, they can go insta on this rotate. You know, like, the script is very clear to see. Alright, so now let's analyse their next rotate from in-game. So now looking at this rotate in-game, probably should be ready to go insta, but they get together. They have time because of the big space, and they just go zone. They could go left here, but they know that Nebs is there. No reason to get near him, so they just white line it. They pause, and then at this point, he knows that they've probably gone. Because, you know, they were here, and now they're, like, they've pretty much made the same amount of distance as them, and they're just going to keep going. So now TruleX is like, okay, let's follow these guys. Like, line of sight every opportunity. That's how you make free rotates. You reuse other things, and now they're in zone, but this position isn't great. And if you just imagine the next zone pulling max, you can see why. Everyone can see them. They have no real cover. They don't have much space. They're not really... I mean, I guess they can get some okay surge, but it won't be much. So, TruleX solves the first problem of everyone seeing you just by making space. Because everyone knows they're there, they might as well make some space so they don't get lobbied. And I'll be honest, it's a very good pull. There is a lot to learn here. I promise there's a lot to learn. They know that the whole lobby is going to do this. Because they know this is congested side. Based on the previous zone, this is congested side. So they know there's a lot of people that's about to do this. Now what that means is that people are going to try and go into dead side. People are going to try and run along old builds. And this happens actually in multiple of the other games, or the final 2 games. And you can see how each time they make a different way of solving this problem. So this game, I mean, they get the kill. One of their 5 kills in the whole tournament. Nice. But their logic is now, because everyone's rotating along the side, dead side is in the middle. Now obviously that means you can get lobbied. That is like a massive thing to consider. But they've made space, they've burnt the metal. And now what does that get them? That pretty much makes their own dead side. There's this cluster, and they're just in the middle, just chilling. Pretty much pull zone here. And then they just go for height. Like, even the worst placement teams can go for height. And it's very clear. You need this if you want to hold height. And unfortunately, these guys don't go for it. I don't really know why. I mean, I guess this is the problem when your mentality isn't really get height, don't die team. They just get height, and just sit around, get some placement, and now they lose it. They could have very easily got to that. They have this whites, and they have 6 medkits, I mean. But like, you know, I do think that was a mistake. But that's just a product of their mentality and how they play. Okay, now here, he drops the gun, which I think is really good awareness, and is something that you really develop over time with your teammate, because now is a good time to show the kin stats from this tournament. A big 0 kills on TruleX, 5 on Chico, 0.5 damage ratio, 1.5. I mean, I know that Chico was the one doing the trading. I mean, even then, he was doing the trading, that should mean his damage ratio is closer to 1. But it's just like, these guys are so polar opposites, and they're so specialised in their role of as IGL and Fragger. Or maybe just damage dealer, I don't even know if he's a Fragger at this point. 51 builds, 83 builds, it's not bad actually. I know this is an old box, so they use the space. There's so much space they can use to try and get kills. Black full left to go dead side. Well, at least have access to dead side. And this is good enough dead side, by the way. You don't need to be here for you to say you're dead side. This is pretty much dead side already, because now if zone pulls across, you can still use dead side for yourself. It's a really nice rotate from them. They use maybe 25 builds, but they're in a really nice position now. Now zone kind of pulls back, so everyone's going to be looking for kills. So they need to have awareness, space, and they're not really trying to do too much. You know, they could be smacking on the walls right now, but they don't. They don't need to. Focus on these guys, because they probably think that these guys are vulnerable. You know, when they come out, bang, you max them. It doesn't work out like that. you know, that's just how kills are in Endgame. And now, if you notice, everything they've been shooting is below and behind. So when it comes to rotating, your layer's congested, your front's congested, your side's congested, and you didn't have time to scout. So this is, yeah, quite the mistake, and you can see how it just, yeah, doesn't go great. Because you haven't controlled any layer, you haven't controlled any side of zone. And now, we go back to medkits. It's really an artist at work. Spamming medkits. That's incredible. He goes to 6 active. That's passion. I respect that dedication to the game. But what could you see from that game? You could see they were completely scuffed off spawn. They worked with what they had. They knew the map. Whether that was based on the, you know, maybe they planned that before, but even if they didn't, you know, like, that's the stuff you can learn from scrims over time, that, you know, that slurp truck spot is really good for trading. Or if you know there's a spot, you know, go to POI that you can scrap loot. Or maybe Peterbot's claimed half the map. Maybe you can go in there later, when they've probably gone. Things like this you can play for. Okay, on to game 5. So I'm going to skip to 6 minutes, because you know what happens in the 6 minutes before that. And let's see how much they've traded real quick. 200 damage. It's not a lot, but it's something. It gives you some freedom in the mid game. Maybe you can skip about zone 3, and then focus on that zone 4 position as always. Now they hear this fight on the side. They could go and get that. They could go clean up, get surge, get tags. That's not their game plan. Their game plan is go zone, get center 4th, play line of sight, make a surge base, spam medkits, get a 5th or something. And also, their path is very intentional here. I know it might not seem like it on first sight. If I open up this Fortnite GG map of everyone's drop spots, they land here, and they're about here right now. They know that people are fighting here. So it's probably going to be this team and this team. What does that mean? That means that no one else is here. And if you notice, there's also a dead zone here. So anyone I've coached absolutely knows what I'm saying here. But there's this dead zone here. And no one really has any reason to be here. You're not going to get spare loot. You're not going to really find spare mats. You're not going to get surge. No one's going to be here. So if you notice, this is a completely free path. Maybe you go further up here, or, you know, use line of sight. And just like that, they've gone from a complete edge map spot to in zone. So if you notice, Chicho's jumping up, and then TruleX is like, no, come down. So then he goes back down into line of sight. Just that extra bit of cover. It goes a long way in saving your meds and your mats, and just not being seen. Eventually, you just get into zone. Like, as soon as they left their little safe zone, they found people. But, you know, they had time. They just chose their spot to avoid them. They're pretty much in zone. Cringe is the new TruleX, by the way. He is going to cook. Give him some time. But right now, we have to give it to the OGs. Center of 3rd is pretty much center of 4th. And if you just notice something about their position, just something, just maybe, there's a whole load of line of sight that they've just ended up boxing on the edge of. Okay, maybe they could have gone deeper, but it's quite hard to get to this point, you know, it's only one path in this. But here, all of that, this, and eventually, when these guys have no cover, they're into TruleX and Chico. It's just like clockwork. Okay, and they do just stay here, get tags. I'm going to skip a bit ahead. Okay, zone pulls. Probably don't get tagged when zone's about to pull. But I mean, okay. And now they could go this way. And you might think, oh, there's only one team. That's fine, you can manage that. You can't manage that. These guys are in zone. The only thing they can do here is get tags. They're going to try and milk you to the max. So it's fine, just use line of sight and you're chilling. Make everyone forget that you're even here, because you're in cover. And now by the time you go into zone, you're free. You're open. Now notice they shoot these guys. That's because they're pretty much already in zone at this point. So it's not really a problem. And also everyone already knows they're here. Because, you know, they have to build. It doesn't really change anything. And now notice, when they shoot a lot. On their rotates, they pretty much never shot. But now, it's all about getting surge. They're not really ready to go insta, but okay. Okay, they top out all the space because they know Malibuka's above them, and he can knock them. Again, like, just overbuilding this wood. You know, this seems so stupid. This seems like something straight out of like Div 4. But no, this is how you just don't die. Like, this didn't actually cost that much. No, what, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, about 15 wooden builds. Okay, maybe 20 if you include the walls. But how much would that save? You know, maybe a whole big pot, and then an extra 2 boxes, and the time you lose. And now they drop out of, like, they drop into line of sight. So now they essentially forgot where they were, and now they can go in for free. Chicho's still watching his back. You know, you see the duo chemistry now. Now again they try and drop into line of sight. Maybe don't shoot there, yeah, because now this happens. Now the rest of this game, it's kind of a flashback to game 1, where they're just living. And now, same thing that happened last game. Congested side is pulling straight across, down the side, into the next zone. So what do they want to do here? So let's watch Chico's video. So they know everyone's going to come along this side. They're 54 above. Now it's time to just get cap surge. And they know there's going to be people coming. There's of course always going to be people coming around to the dead side. And maybe they're getting a bit unlucky, no one's really coming. But eventually they do. And now you're about to see the most poverty gameplay you've ever seen in Fortnite Battle Royale history. I'll just let it play. I'll let the artists paint their own work. We're really ratting around like that. And then EU finals, and they got 7th. Like, I know you're probably used to Vodravir, the Vico Veno Flixies, the world, the Peter bots. Just some TruleX, man. Just some pure poverty instinct. Crouching around. They really could go for a kill right now. They don't want to go for a kill. They've got 3 medkits. That's enough placement to make it to the end of the game. Oh, Chicho dies. Who cares? Doesn't even matter. TruleX doesn't even turn around once apart from to block his back. Now, just like always, he plays medkits. Notice he's top 11 when he plays medkits. And now he gets top 7 for free. But it's pure just poverty gameplay. There's not much to analyse. They went along the side of zone, boxed up. They just tried to make no one a problem. But you can see how the game plan is pretty much always the same. Get your early surge, go to center of 4th, and then just stay ahead. Make your own dead zone with your surge bases and control space. And then obviously there are lots of micro things such as knowing when you're exposed, line of sight. We can see it all in the last game. Got the early surge, and they're playing center of 4th. And notice how I've got open here what TruleX is marking, and you can see he's very intentionally marking things. And at this point he marks not necessarily Predator's Peak, but he marks the bit just below it. He's very intentional with where he's going. And I'm going to be honest, I'll say this in advance, it's not really so clear why he doesn't just go for the main Predator's Peak. Now there are big, there's a little base on top of the main bit of it, but it's very clearly, okay, maybe that's hindsight, but it's very plausibly empty. Now he's getting up Chicho's metal. No point playing a refresh down, always have your metal. I really wish I had a great answer of why they didn't go here. I can try and explain it with risk. If you go here, you're maybe going to anger someone else who's going to kill you, or what else did I write? They also didn't even need it, technically, because you're not going to get tags here. So let's say next zone pulls here, people are going to rotate like this. This is all the tags you're going to get. And if you notice, Predator Peak isn't getting those tags. And now if they stay here, then they can't get their center of 4th. So maybe they don't really need to commit all that. Maybe they're here essentially just as a bush. But also what this allows them to do. This allows them to refarm. Because if you're up here, the refarm is quite hard. And let's say you want to control some space down here. You've got to run here, farm this, build, go down here, farm that. Which seems quite, you know, you never really think about that. But if you watch TruleX here, oh, this is a special moment. It's just the epitome of TruleX, because why are we just building a fat cock in the middle of the finals? Like, we're trolling. Like, we just built this. Why have we built this? But, if you notice, he's centre of fourth now. And they've controlled all this space. So they've got their own dead zone. Now, things slowly add together. Like, I don't know how you can ever plan this in advance. But maybe now you see TruleX do it. Maybe you can try and adapt it to your gameplay. You know, this is the beauty of VOD reviewing. You can make your own interpretations of everything. And what I'm seeing right now is you need to control space, and you need to be creative in how you control space. Like, this is cool. And now they see the rift pod over there. They shoot it out, and now no one even knows it's there because it's gone off the map. Chicho comes down, and bang, they're away. Centre of fourth zone, with slurp juices, with cap mats. And this game, I don't even think ends that well. Yeah, they're not even trying to get surge, because what surge are you getting? Everyone in this ring maybe is already boxed up. You know, there's no surge to get. You're just playing for the next zone. And now, like clockwork, fifth zone pulls. Where are they going to surge base? They're going to surge base just after the line of sight, which is pretty much, I guess, these trees, because everyone's going to use them, and then they're open in the road. But also, I think it's really important to highlight that if they went deeper, just look at the angles from here. There's not as many tags you can get. By going here, you've gone essentially at the first point of line of sight. Like, this is the main line of sight, like, in general. And you don't want to be caught really far away and for this hill to cut off many angles. You want to be really close so it doesn't actually cut off that many angles. Because look, here, it doesn't cut off anything. Imagine if they're here, you can see there's less to cut off. And also, I know I'm just yapping, but maybe it sounds interesting. Do let me know. Do let me know in the comments or DMs. I'm always open to feedback and thoughts or opinions on the games. But here, they also control the zone, because no one's there, and if they stop people from going there by tagging them, then they can still use this to rotate later. Okay, he gets a whole load of 0 tags, but it's fine. They have the space in the centre of zone. They pretty much own this whole side of the map. They can go deeper, so they do. So they try and go in here. It's not as simple, they do get beamed. But now, at this point, it's a really key decision. So they're obviously, TruleX is scouting, he's thinking, he gets beamed, okay, that happens. But now he has a moment to pause, and he can really assess his options. Also, why he doesn't use a slurp, I don't know, but it's probably because he wants to play medkits. You know, like, just like clockwork. But, you know, here, let's actually just wait for his POV. He jumps out, and he sees very clearly, box here, box here. What does that mean? You have to go here to be safe, because if you go here, bing. If you go here, bing. If you go around here, you know, you're going to cut into other people's angles as well that you can't see. You can't see that angle. Here you can kind of see it. So now we can go around the side, and now he's not trapped between people. It does seem like common sense, but it's not always that simple, I'm not gonna lie. It's just that principle of finding the path with least resistance. It's something that, you know, can take away. Even if you can spot that in that moment, you want to have that principle to apply it to other moments. And now, just like the other games, or the last two that we watched, zone pulls along congested side. Everyone's here, and it pulls across. So how have they dealt with this before? Point one is they went into the middle. Should they do that? Probably not. Path 2 was milk everyone for Surge, which, I mean, I guess they could, but, you know, there's a lot of builds here. It's going to be hard to max out your tags. And solution 3 is here. And it is just the edge rotate of Doom. Literally hugging the right side of the storm the whole time. Going and going. And now they're behind into dead side. I know I left it on 4x, but I don't think, you know, I think everyone's done at least a few rotates like that before. They try and get a kill. It's rare, I know. Okay, this rotate, I think they have a free path. Chico gets opened up on. It's fine, because TruleX has made space. And now they top. You might think, wait, why would they top? They have like no mats, they're never going to get a refresh, what are they going to do? Firstly, it's to create distance, because they can see on visuals, there's a team there, and there's probably, I think, yeah, crouched at some point. So that means that if all of you guys rotate at the same time, he's going to jump, or fizz jump, he's going to fizz jump, he's going to fizz jump. And what happens is that this guy jumps on your head, or these guys build their back and block you off, and it's hard to use line of sight, and it all becomes a bit chaotic. I mean, everyone's had that fizz rotate where everyone's going and it just seems like, what the hell is going on? So they avoid that by changing their timing. Also, going to the side means that no one can outflank them. If they were here, as zone opens up, they can lose this side, like this side of zone. But by going ahead a bit more, that means they've controlled more of this right side for them later. But now they have more control over the side. And they don't really use it well, because Quentin has to go easily past, but you know, you can see the idea. So now, 22 builds, 7 builds, absolute poverty. So what's the name of the game? It's surviving, it's spamming medkits, it's crickets, but it works. Oh, this game they don't even get to play the medkits. It's just whatever this is. You know, he still tries to die with medkits in his hand. He did the same thing in Chapter 5 Globals. Some things just never change. But there is a lot, you know, to take away from these guys. Firstly, these guys are absolute pussies. They just don't want to key anything. So if I pretty much was to summarize their game plans, it's going to be, you really want to choose. Okay, I'm going to start with the macro stuff first. So their general game plan was getting early surge. Early surge is so OP. You get to choose your whole mid game, choose your whole game plan. You know, you kind of don't have to stress, you don't have to key too much in the mid game. And then their general mid game plan was just get center of 4th, pick the right spot to surge base, which is normally at the end of line of sight. Early rotate every zone. Think about where congested people are. So, you know, when we're talking about when zone falls along the edge of congested, maybe like always try and think about that, make a play on that, and consciously avoid the congestion. And the end game is just play poverty. Don't top too much, but you know, if you want to change your timing, do that, and then just spam medkits. They did play height a few games, but to be honest, were they playing height or were they just skybasing? You know, like, it's not a problem. Like, these are placement warriors, and this is how, like, this is the rawest version of Fortnite. What else? In terms of the small, like, micro things to analyze, this isn't going to be in any particular order. Making noise gets you targeted. I know that seems stupid, but there was that point in, I think, it was the lovely lane zone, where they shot on their rotate, and then their rotate just became hard. I probably should have a little flashback to that. Maybe I can, actually. Let me see if I can get a screenshot. Bang. Oh, that was awesome. See, the production quality in Coach Frostbite's channel. You should really subscribe. Okay, also, the 3 ways to lose and take height. Awareness, getting chopped, and from front side. Obviously, that's in just a fizz meta. If there's a mobility, that's obviously going to change. But Chicho and TruleX pretty much eliminated all 3, so there was no way they were really losing height. They also knew the risks of their Offspawn. They knew that this area is more risky to loot than this area, so they could do this one later. And pretty much, it's just summarized by survival. They are doing everything they can just to live. It's so boring, I'm not gonna lie. But they make a box, they stay edge, you know, they're sticking to the edge of moving zone. They're trying to stay away from the lobby. They're trying to get at least 2 boxes between them and every team. Like, I'll be honest, it's so boring to watch, but it's kind of beautiful. And that's going to be it for this video. This was hella long, but I'm going to be honest, this was actually fun to record. And do let me know if there's any other teams you want me to VOD and analyse. And I will say, this is recorded after week 2. And if I go to week 2, or even is that name, 29th, they full dudded. And I do think my next video will be about how good teams dud. Because everyone always, you know, they analyse the FNCS winners, they analyse people who did good at bad drop spots. But no one ever really looks at what makes a team that starts good, play bad. That's going to be it for this video. Thank you for watching. Leave comments, leave DMs, leave feedback, show some love, and crossplay out. I don't know. That seemed like an awful intro. See ya.